We're back for another episode of the Automator Series, and today I'm with Erika Nikiskina. So, firstly, thanks so much for taking the time today.
No problem, no problem. Glad to join you.
Yeah, I'm sure people have heard a little bit of the accent already, but the fact that you're in Ireland is always very cool. So, I'm just going to pass it straight over to you. Like, say hi to everyone, and also just give a bit of an introduction to yourself, like who you're working with, your focus, just let people know who Erika is.
Okay, so hello everybody. So who am I? What am I doing? Those are the questions that always kind of stop me in my tracks. um, suppose who am I working with? So I'll start with that. I work with aspiring and holistic entrepreneurs, so healers, coaches, hypnotherapists, and I help them to up level so that they can up level their mindset, so that they can earn money doing what they love. Because from my own personal experience, when I started my business, when I began pursuing what I love doing, which is working with people and helping people overcome the obstacles that they have, I have identified that all of us first need to have some foundation from which then we can tap into that inner power of ours, and serve others in a way that we can the best and the most in a way. Because like everything starts with foundation. When you think about building a house, first you build the foundation, you make sure that it is secure, and then on top of that foundation you build a house. And the same with ourselves. If we don't feel loved enough, secure enough, and worthy enough as our foundation, then it's harder, a lot harder for us to achieve something, to take that big leap into the unknown, because our brain is wired in a way to keep us safe and familiar. And therefore everything that it sees which is outside of the safe and familiar will immediately cause us either feel nauseous, we will run away, sabotage ourselves, and inevitably we will not earn the money doing what we love, because every action that we take is a action that is safe, yet not the action that is there to bring results, in a way that is there to level us into the people that we're meant to be, when we come into this earth.
Yeah, so it's almost like helping people break through, say, like limiting beliefs, almost like fears, but also kind of just all that random bullshit they kind of might have had built up in their mindsets from just their youth and just kind of bad foundations and kind of not supportive mindsets.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of us, we just dive in. We go study something that we like. And I remember when I first decided that I needed a change, I went and studied yoga for 4 years. And so this for me was like a step one. And studying yoga, I've seen a tremendous amount of improvements, how I was, how I felt, how I was breathing even. And then I thought, I want to help everybody, and I'm gonna teach everybody yoga. But not everybody wants to study yoga, not everybody wants to do yoga even. And then I thought, it was like, right, okay, so how can I, what else can I do? So I was following this woman online, and she was a famous hypnotherapist. And I really liked what she was doing, what she was saying. And she always was saying that, you are enough. And all of us are enough, and we don't realize it. And I was like, okay, right. Yeah. So I always was like introverted, very, very introverted. And so for me, being around people felt a bit uneasy, I was like, okay, am I enough here? Should I be somebody else? And that kind of inner conflict was always present. So that's when hypnotherapy came in. And I studied hypnotherapy for I would say a couple of years, a good couple of years as well, and began working with people. And the ones that I attracted the most were the people with like complex anxiety and depression, and something that I really did not expect. I thought, it's going to be easy. I'm going to be working with people that perhaps have social anxiety because I know how it feels, so I can help them from that point of view. And life had other intentions for me, it's like, here is the person with a whole list of things,
Yeah.
So finding my way around that, and looking at how I can implement what I learned in yoga, and then what I learned in hypnotherapy, and what I realized that all the practices that we have today around the world, they're very similar, because they are really looking at your foundations, so what do you have at your foundation? So in yoga, you should really have a strong foundation in order to do with the asanas, in order to have the breath flowing easily. And without foundations, it's very hard to not to injure yourself, for example. And in hypnotherapy, it's the same. It looks at the foundations. So, okay, so where you are right now, what is it that right now is in the way, so how can we address that? And then we work with subconscious in order to address that and rewire that, to help a person to achieve what they're going through, or what they're going for. And at some point I realized that, all of this is great, but I need structure. So in my mind, I could see, the subconscious part. I can see the yoga practices, but I need a structure. And that's where neurocoaching came in, because it's very structured. This is science-based. This is how your mind works. This is what happened first. This is what happened second. And it was really an eye-opener, because it brought something that was missing for me. And now that I use that in my work with people, I can take them from where they are now into a result that they want, in one session, or do it in reverse, seeing what kind of result do they want. So let's say they want to earn money doing what they love, really, so they've tried for a very long time and it didn't happen to them, and they just want that, but they don't know what is happening between here and there. So then we look at all the foundations. Okay, so how do you need to be, for example, who do you need to become to be successful? And not all of us know. Like, I never ran a business before I started my own, so whom I needed to become in order to attract paying clients and in order to get paid for my services was a journey. I had a lot of mistakes, definitely loads of mistakes. And what I've learned is that we are so afraid of mistakes. We're so afraid of failing, because for one or another reason, how will people look at me? Or what if I don't succeed? Or what if that? Or what if this? And that stops us, But inevitably, if we don't take consistent action, one after another one, then we don't learn. We don't realize something about ourselves. And what I see now in the people that I work with, and in my own journey, it still continues, it hasn't stopped, is that every failure, if I want to look at it that way, every lesson, in my life, or every lesson or action or inaction in my client's journey, teaches something either about their own selves, their own limitations, or their own strengths even, because once you take that action, you flood it with all of the thoughts, it's like, oh my God, what if it doesn't work? And I don't think I believe in myself yet, what if I don't know enough? And we work with that immediately, because it's like a gold mine. You uncovered something, you tapped into your into your being, and you've been shown what you're ready to resolve now.
Mm.
So did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you also brought up a really good few kind of golden nuggets there, and it makes me think it's like that's also the dangers of going at things alone, because you mentioned like if you have failures and you kind of go in it at your own, it's hard to push through that to be like continue. But if you have someone who's like, hey, failure is normal, what can we learn from this? Or like, hey, you don't even realize how many failures I've been through, like let's keep on with this. It's like that encouragement, and having that group of people who have those same mindsets, like it's powerful. It's so powerful. Like I know that's what helped me through a ton of my journey. Is I mean, honestly, I just wouldn't even be where I am if it wasn't for the people around me who had these really good mindsets, really good way they kind of frame things and experiences. Like I thought the small point that you brought up, which was kind of like just in passing, it's that in itself is so powerful of having people around you.
Definitely, yeah. And it is said that the fastest way for you to up level is to work with, say, a coach, you know, whether it's a mindset coach or a business coach.
Mm,
And often people don't realize it. And listen, I have met so many, you know, and I've been one of those people as well that didn't really want to ask for help, you know, because asking for help often is seen as being weak, you know. So it's like,
mm,
how can you not do it on your own, you know? And then you compare yourself to others, and you know, you see how others do it, and you think, why can I do it myself? And then you decide to do it myself. Well, in the meantime, you really keep yourself safe and familiar, you know,
mm,
because working with somebody means that you give up kind of a part of the control mechanism that you have inside of you, that you get to trust another person, you know, you get to open up to another person. It is not easy for everybody, and especially in our world today, people are very they're strong inside, and yet when it comes to vulnerability, not
mm,
everybody wants to open up, you know. It's like for me, admitting that I am not doing as well as I was saying I was doing was a very big step, you know. And even admitting it to myself, because you can lie to yourself all, you know, all the way. And the truth is, unless you are very honest and truthful with yourself and with others about where you are and what are you struggling with,
mm,
and look at your strengths and your areas of opportunities, then there is no progress. Yeah, because our journey, and really how we up level, you know, how we up level our mindset, our business, and our life in general, starts with self-knowledge, you know. So if you cannot look at yourself honestly and say, yeah, I really need help with that, you know, then it's really going to happen.
yeah. I mean, but sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. Like when you say, like, "Oh, I actually need having that self awareness to be
Mm,
like, I need help," or things like that, or let me find someone to kind of guide me. Sometimes you're so far down that you don't even realize you need help. Like you think everything's okay, but it's not. Like you need to get someone
yeah.
on your side.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I remember first time I worked with a coach. It was so funny. I've um, I've set a date for the workshop, you know,
Mhm.
and basically I've set the date, and then I have changed the date at least 3 times, you know. And I was like, I don't know why it's not working for me, you know. Everything seems to be progressing, but I'm not moving anywhere. And then he asked me the question, it's like, but you know why it is not moving? And I was like, no, I don't, you know. And I really didn't want to look at that side of me and acknowledge that needed help. And, you know, I said, no, I don't know, you know, because it's safer not to know. It's safer not to look at that side of me. And now when I work with clients and I see the same patterns, because inevitably we are our own clients, you know, in a way, and we get the people that are aligned with our experience, that are aligned with whatever we had overcome in our lives, you know. So now when I look at the people and I noticed my own past stories in them, yeah, it's different because I suppose, and I'm sure it is the same to you, you know, when you work with somebody and if you see something that they're struggling that you had overcome already, it's easier for you to relate to that person and to help them on the spot there and then, you know?
Yeah. I mean, also you spoke earlier about you originally did your yoga teacher training that got you like all excited to go teach other people yoga, even though it didn't quite work out. But it's like it sounds like you've also always been teaching from your own developments and your own journey. Like, oh, wow, this helped me
Yeah.
so much. Then you go teach other people, go help other people with it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. And um yeah, like I'm not native to Ireland, you know. When I came here, it was different, you know, because I had nobody here, no family and no friends. So, you know, it's a long story, probably not for this talk. And the journey that I had here, you know, and my growing journey, and like there was a lot of different events in here that really made me who I was. And I suppose the most important one that kind of stuck to me is after I had kids. That's
Mhm.
when I had my little kind of crisis, you know, like identity crisis, like who I was, you know. And I remember I was so obsessed about finding my purpose. It's like, what is my purpose? Well, what am I here to do? You know, like, am I only a mother? Am I only this? Because inevitably what happened is that I I went to study IT, you know, and I was so determined that I was like, right, I'm gonna climb this mountain, I'm gonna study IT, I'm gonna get to the top, and I'm gonna be happy. And then when I got to the top, I was not happy. You know, I was not happy. It was completely not what I wanted, you know, and yes, it was aligned with my strengths. You know, there was areas of it that I liked, and you know, I was working with people as well, yet it was not me, you know, it was not representative of who I was inside.
Mm.
And that's when the journey kind of began. I was like, okay, so who am I inside? You know, so who am I really? You know, am I only a mother, an employee? Am I, you know, a neighbor and, you know, a wife? Who am I? You know, so, and yeah, all of us kind of go through this journey at one time of our lives to another. And suppose what I have learned and what I have studied and taught after and the way I work with people really helped me to understand who I was. It was not an overnight thing. And for many, it is not, you know, realizing your inner power, realizing everything that you have to offer, all of your strengths, your experiences, your things that just come to you naturally, and then sharing it with others is a beautiful thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned as well, it's you learn also by working and teaching others because you go
Mm,
in one direction and you're like, ah, this actually, I mean, like you got them results and you worked, but you're like, there's something not feeling right here. Like I'm not as happy or I'm not as excited when I wake up to work with these people on these type of projects or in these circumstances. It's like you're always learning as well in your path of working with other people, which is really
yeah.
awesome. Well, that's I know definitely for me because I'm also from an IT technical background and
Mhm.
like what I started
Yeah.
out working on was very like nitty gritty, like coding and stuff like that, building applications for companies. But I realized like it just that wasn't making me happy, that wasn't making me excited, and that's obviously naturally developed into what I do now, which is still using what I do, but it feels better. Like I'm more excited about the projects and the people I'm helping, as opposed to building a fashion app to sell more fashion type of thing. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
One
definitely.
thing you mentioned a few times was, or you kind of alluded to the people you're working with, your clients. just like for clarity, so people know exactly what you're doing right now, who are you specifically working with at the moment? Is it men? Is it women? Is it certain age groups, backgrounds?
Good question. So it's a mixture. I predominantly work with women, so I would say majority of my customers are women, are mothers, and yet I do have men as well, and so what was it? Okay, so the women that I work with and the men, they all own businesses. So they are, let's say, starting up in their business, or they're trying to weave different aspects of healing, so there could be like crystal healers together with counseling, married together, or there could be like a hypnotherapist that weaved in like Reiki into your practice as well, to help a person on their journey. So I would say that they're very multidimensional in what they want to offer to another person, because what is suitable for you may not be suitable for me. So let's say for me, yoga, hypnosis, and neurocoaching really helped to bring me around, right? To another person, it could be, let's say, sacred cacao ceremonies paired with shiatsu, that kind of weaves that around.
Yeah.
And another person may be focused purely on the body work, because that's where the work needs to happen at this time. So I help people to really realize what are their strengths, first of all, so to build that foundation, to understand what is it that they have at the moment, and then focus on the result that they want. And all of them really just want to have financial independence. They want to be happy, and they want to live a life from the place of I can versus I can't, and what I have found is that a lot of us don't believe in ourselves, so my job is to believe in them until they can believe in themselves, and just building them from the ground up, making sure that they have everything necessary inside of themselves to say I can, or to persevere through the situations that their brain would throw like a hissy fit on and decide, I'm not doing this, and turn around and run away, and help them and guide them along, towards creating something from inside of themselves that will help them to transform others. Because when you work in an area of people transformation, what is important is that you transform yourself before you transform others. And you can only transform others from the place that you already had transformed yourself. And because otherwise we will bring in our own stories, into guiding those people, and our own limiting set of beliefs, we will not understand that person's struggle unless we had overcome that ourselves.
Yeah, one thing that makes me think of as well is many people have mentioned to me that, teaching from your own development is so big, and that's also what you had in a lot of your experience. But also from what I've heard from many people, less so in what I do, but when you've kind of really grown far, it's almost like sometimes you can't relate anymore to people who are like right at the start of their journey, because you can't like put yourself back into those mindsets, kind of as you were saying, like being able to actually know what it felt like.
Yeah, that's why journal down everything that you experience now, so that you can go back in and read through it, because for your even mind, it is helpful to see where you are now versus where you were, so say if you want to compare yourself to somebody, compare it to your own self, And when you journal and you write down the things that you're struggling on like daily basis, for example, or what you overcome, and then after a year's time you go back and reread it, you can definitely see how far you've come, and also how much you have forgotten, that you dismiss now, as you say, because you've grown so much. And yet when we work with others, you notice in themselves, it's like, oh, I remember that. I don't worry, it's all gonna be fine. This is how you can help yourself right now, right this moment. And a lot of people focus on the past or the future, and they say, I don't have this, or in the past I didn't have that. No, that doesn't matter. What matters is today. So let's look at today. Let's look at how we can help you today, right now, to make a decision that will get you turning when you're doing what they love, that will get you to, the business that you really want growing, or the amount of people that we want to be helping.
Yeah, especially like our old mindsets about the past. I mean, obviously it's good to know where you've come from, but it's like they can either be a negative and weigh you down because of how you interpret it, or you see it as a positive. Like, I know for me, the experiences I wasn't happy about or like ashamed of or whatever, but I'm like, I am who I am now because of those things. Am I
Exactly.
relatively happy with who I am now? Yes. So I kind of have to be a little bit grateful because of what I learned from it, or like what can I take away from it because it got me to where
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, and this is so true. And what we do often as well is, in the past, let's say, all of our stories and what we carry with ourselves, the beliefs that we carry about ourselves, all are associated with something that had happened to us, in the past. And often there are other people involved, other people's opinions or view of us, that is involved into our own identity. And our our brains are predominantly negativity bias. Yeah, we tend to notice 9 things negative and 1 positive,
Yeah.
which is fine, because the part of our brain that is responsible for that is the oldest part of our brain, right? Is there to keep us safe and familiar. So when let's say I work with people and they tell me the stories about how they've been treated, or how they've been criticized by their parents, and this is why they don't think much about themselves. And then I asked them to see, I was like, okay, yes, this is negative, perhaps, but let's look at the positive. So whom you have become as a result of that. So let's say you've been badly treated by your sister, as you were growing up, and she was telling you that you are not good enough and that you are a bad kid, and everything else. So what was the positive intention of that person,
Mhm.
And usually there is a positive intention, that they wanted to keep them safe, from harm, for example. They wanted to keep themselves safe from harm, because if something had happened, the parents would give up. Or if you have very critical parents, they also have a positive intent. They want what is best for you. They cannot communicate it in a way that sounds not criticizing,
Yeah.
and yet they still have a positive intent, because they see things from a perspective that you may not see at this time. And there is a way of even teaching the parents of yours how to speak to you in a way that does not sound criticizing,
Mhm.
So there's always a way. Where there is a will, there is a way, right? There is a saying.
Yeah, and also like you mentioned, kind of critical parents and potentially influences we had growing up. Like what's been really powerful for me is just like that almost like switch in your brain of being like, hey, they've had their own bullshit. They've had to deal with also their own
Yeah,
mindsets that they maybe haven't worked on or they
yeah.
have worked on. It's like they have their own stuff, and we just gotta either learn from it and potentially not let it kind of influence us in a bad way. Try to learn from it instead.
Yeah, and this is so true. I know from my own maternal lineage.
Mm.
Um, yeah, all the women in my, let's say, mother's line are very strong, you know, very strong and like a head on, you know.
Yeah.
And there, and only recently I have uncovered that I really have that very strong and yet nasty side inside of me, you know, that is not very kind, that is not very compassionate, that is very willing, very controlling, you know.
Mm.
And for me, and I've noticed that because of the way I have treated one of my kids, you know. And because I have been doing so much work on my own self, I noticed it and became aware of it like instantly, you know, and I felt so bad about it. I was like, oh my God, I'm really not like that. But yet there is a part of me that just is like, either do it this way or just don't do it at all, you know.
Mm.
So the fact that I was shown that, and then I did some like inner journey as well, to understand, and I could see in my mother's lineage that we all carry that. We all carry that from somewhere in the past, you know, that all
Yeah.
of us have that. And I am like the last, let's say, the last apple that fallen from the tree, and you know, I get to resolve that. And this is amazing, you know, because when you work on yourself, you also work on your own family, you know,
Mm.
on whatever the stories of your family that you are carrying with you, you know, and then it just clears and becomes so beautiful and blossoming, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. It actually reminds me of I'm doing this 21 days of abundance by Deepak Chopra, and the
Oh, okay.
one, like, I think I don't know if it's his affirmation or mantra, but it's as part of like the exercise. The one is like writing a letter to yourself saying like you're letting go of all the potential bad money mindsets that came from like your origins as far back as they can go, and it's like
Hmm.
they giving you permission to let those things go and things like that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, realistically, like we're still probably going to pass on potential things to our kids if we have them, that they're going to be like, oh, I wish I hadn't had to deal with that from my parents. But as long as you're kind of
yeah,
working on the obvious parts of yourself, I think that's the big thing. Like you're doing your
yeah,
best. You're doing your best.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Just as a parent, you know, like the best thing you can do is to be you know, to be the best that you can, really, and to give your kids the best. And what I am working on myself, I can also give that to my kids as well, you know, because I notice there's areas, you know, or how they behave in certain situations that, you know, from my own experience and understanding my own emotional needs, my own emotional limitations, I can then lower myself down to their own level and be with them, you know, in a way that perhaps my parents were not with me. So
Mm.
that already helps them to build that foundation, you know, to understand other people better, you know, because as you are growing up, yeah, if you don't have somebody who you can get guidance from or you can really open up to, you know, yeah, it's a bit harder, you know. So I believe that as parents, we have an amazing and very, very big and important opportunity to make sure that we arrive with as clean of a slate as possible, you know.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's an
we're
aspect.
gonna carry, yeah, we're gonna carry a lot of things, yeah, and then this is inevitable, yet we also get to, and we have an opportunity to work on these things, you know, and to teach our kids to say, hey, I'm not perfect, you know, by no means in my imagination am I perfect, you know,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of mistakes and you will do a lot of mistakes. However, I will always be there for you, you know. And having that voice, having that inner voice saying that I will always support you and I will always be there for you no matter what, it's so important, you know, because
Mm.
this is how we progress, you know, when we trust ourselves, when we support ourselves, when we are for ourselves there and then when we need us, rather than running away or masking our inability to cope, you know, with other things.
Yeah. I mean, it also, you made me just like it would probably also be very powerful. I just kind of thought about it now to tell also, because we spoke about journaling, so you can see your journey is telling your kids or your friends, whoever, that journey you went on, being like, this is who I was. Like I had these mindsets, these were not helping me in any way. I had to work through them this way. Like letting them know that journey as well of how you got to where you are, as opposed to just they know you as you and they're like, oh, they still got all these potential things I don't like. But if they know you've gone through such a big journey to get to where you are, and
Yeah,
these are not just like the leftover remnants you couldn't maybe get to. I think that probably also builds a
definitely.
very strong relationship then with kids or
Yeah.
family or friends.
Yeah, and it's the power of storytelling, you know.
Yeah.
I This is why we've been read books too, you know, when we were growing up, because from the books, and this is so important nowadays, even for the adults. Whenever we're faced with challenges in our life, if we don't have something to compare it to, you know, so let's say a story from the book or you know, somebody else's experience, then for us to overcome that becomes that much harder because we don't have that internal resource. And so read as many books as you can, especially if you're a parent, and if you're going through your own internal transformation, then reading the books that align with what you want to achieve, that
Yeah.
helps you to reflect, you know, and to, let's say, I want to say compare, and I don't want to say at the same time, but kind of look at it from another angle, you know, because whenever we walk through a self-transformation, you know, when we want to achieve something that we have not yet achieved in our lives, it's like a hero's journey, you know, that you embark on, and you're faced with all of your fears. You meet a mentor, you know, you begin working through your inner whatnot, and you come out a new person at the end of it. So yeah, if you have those stories and you keep those stories and you can tell those stories and pass them on, they will definitely serve as a good foundation, you know, for others.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we've completely blown through our time just because it's been such a
With it,
flowing
yeah.
conversation. I've loved it. So obviously, I'm going to include all the links in the description and stuff. But is there any way in particular you want to direct people if they want to reach out to you to get some of your magical energy in their life, or want to work with you even? What's the best
Sure.
way?
Yep. So I believe the links that you have. So there's one for the quiz to help people understand the hidden mindset block that prevents them from earning money doing what they love. And also I have an upcoming workshop for a foundations of your inner power, where we get to look at your current foundation and meet your kind of inner family. So because a lot of us have an inner family inside, one that is striving to get forward, another one that is holding the brakes, and you know, there is a wise one as well that says you can get through it. And all of those kind of play a part in ourselves, you know, part in our subconscious, you know, in our own being. So the workshop is meant really to help people understand what is their foundation, and what is their entire being is made of, and help them to make steps into up leveling to a journey or the way in their business that they want, you know.
Ah, beautiful. We'll definitely direct everyone to those resources. Thanks so much for the time today.
No problem. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Automator Series as much as I enjoyed having it. And there are two things I want you to do now. I want you firstly to follow me on YouTube, get that subscription in, because you're going to see all the new episodes popping up in that case, and you can stay on top of the series. And the second thing is, I want you to reach out to me. If anything we discussed on the episode today resonated with you in regards to potentially taking a jump into an online spiritual coaching business, or you really have a business and you're wanting to grow that out and you're feeling like you could be impacting a lot more lives, but you don't quite have the time right now, you don't quite have the freedom you wanted, and you don't quite have those systems in place, I want you to reach out to me. So no pressure, no strings attached. Send me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn, email, whatever you prefer, and we can just have a conversation and a bit of a back and forth in regards to where you're at, what you're looking for, and how I might be able to help you impact more lives with what you're doing.